one of the things that you had mentioned before we started was how you've been leveraging your relationships, and you had kind of touched on it a little bit ago as well. What do you find is one key? Because I feel like business owners or new business owners always hear that, like leverage your relationships, build relationships.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you do that, like, because you seem to be good at it, to develop that relationship?
Yeah. So
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.
All righty, welcome back to another episode of Business After Hours podcast. Here with my co-host Jared and our guest Joey. How are you gentlemen doing today?
fantastic.
Jared?
Year's already going by fast, it feels like.
I know, right?
Are you planning for Christmas? Is that what's going on
Pretty
already?
close to it.
I
Pulling the
feel
lights
like
out,
it.
get them ready.
Right. So Joey, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Joey Hebert. I'm the founder and CEO of Sideride NWA. It's a company I started back in October of 2022 here in Northwest Arkansas. It's solely based here in Northwest Arkansas, and what it is it gets a lot of labels. Essentially, it's a black car service, and I do provide transportation and chauffeur service for any type of business travel, all the way up to the executives um, that are visiting here at Walmart, Tyson, or JB Hunt, or any private jets that land and are coming out for the University of Arkansas football or basketball games. So pretty much, it's more of a concierge service than anything. And between you, me, and now everybody who's listening to this podcast, I'm registered with the state as a concierge service. I'm not even a transportation company, but front facing to the customer, that's what I do, right? I transport customers, but really I take care of people. I make people feel good with a positive, uplifting experience. It just comes natural. It's just my nickname was the morale booster back in the military, way back in the military, 97 to 2001, 227 Wolfhounds, by the way. And so, yeah, it's something that I envisioned, and it's like anything else. You're going to be successful when there's a supply demand that's in your favor, and there's a need, and you solve a problem for the customer. So, um, thanks for having me on.
What got you into this line of work?
Um, well, really, naturally, I probably wasn't honest with myself pretty much my whole adult life, post military, that I just was never fit for working for someone else. Um, and I have a friend of mine that sort of broke off and started doing his own thing and got into the black car industry out in Denver, Colorado. And he used to try to poach me and pull me out of Northern California at the time to come drive for him. He would always say you'd be a natural. And there were a lot of things that I'm good at where my personality obviously just took hold, with the ability to make people laugh or be a positive influence, right? I get invited to a lot of parties and barbecues, so to speak. Okay. So anything in the hospitality industry, I would have probably been good at, but I kept doing the same thing over and over. And I listened to the recruiter that was recruiting me, and I'd go and take this out high paying job. And then it kind of always ended the same. And so when my wife and I decided to leave Northern California and just start a new life, we chose Boise, Idaho. And there's no parents or grandparents alive, so we don't have the typical infrastructure, no rich aunts or uncles out there. So when we're doing this, it's almost like we're young newlyweds, even though we're in our early 40s at the time. And when we moved to Boise, I sort of left the life behind of the six-figure salary and the lifestyle, and kind of started from scratch. Well, out of that, part of sort of a side hustle or bringing in some income was driving Uber or Lyft, right?
Mhm.
And at the time when we moved there, I was consulting, I was working a sales job, and I was doing some Uber Lyft. And what started happening was, at the end of just about every Uber ride, the customer would remain in the car or right outside my car and still want to continue the ride. Meaning, I had this one person stop and stand at the curb at the airport. They're supposed to catch a flight, and they were like, "This was the best ever. How do I get you again?" I'm like, "Hey, Uber doesn't work that way, sir." And that started happening on a regular occurrence. So I kind of knew that I was onto something. But then I started having, without solicitation, business travelers say, "Do you have a card or something? Can I get you on the way back?" So organically that started happening. So go back to my friend in Denver who built his business literally one customer at a time by driving anybody who needed to get to the airport and travel for work. Denver's a massive airport, usually an hour, hour and a half away. And so the reliability factor out there was huge. And so over about a 7-year span, he built up a client base and then started his own company. So I had the concept, but I just didn't want to be some guy on the side. You see where I'm going with this? Meaning, I didn't want some guy to say, "Hey, give me your card and I'll call you when I need you." I wanted it to be a legit front-facing company, hence the name Sideride. It's sort of a play on words, making fun of that because there's a lot of Uber drivers that'll give you their card and tell you, "I'll pick you up and you could be my little customer." So I just kind of sat on it. And as like, life would have it, COVID hit and it made us hit the reset button again. And my wife and I were on a walk one day in Boise, Idaho. She said, "We're never going to live the life we want here. It's almost like California 2.0. We were struggling to keep up. We were getting priced out of the housing market, looking to buy our first house." Hence Northwest Arkansas. When I called my uncle in Louisiana for some advice, his daughter, my cousin, walked in to the front door down in Houma, Louisiana, 10 hours away from here. She was down there visiting with her kids. And while he was giving me the "if you were my son" speech, she walked to the front door. He handed her the phone. She told me about Bentonville in Northwest Arkansas. So I tell you that whole long version of the story because I had no intention of coming out here and driving Uber or starting this company. I came out here knowing that there was an opportunity for us to buy our first house, that I've worked just about every day since I got out of the military, that I could provide for my family, and that there was just this opportunity. So I relocated my 3 and 6-year-old and my wife 3 days across the country in September of 2020 out here to Northwest Arkansas. Within a week, I was delivering packages for the post office, and within a month, I got recruited to Walmart. A bunch of different recruiters that had in it, but you see the cycle I got back into. I landed somewhere, but I started doing the same thing again. Walmart, great company, great opportunity. I worked remote for 1 year, then 1 year hybrid schedule, and then I decided to walk away because what was happening again was I started chasing my own tail, or my uncle calls it chasing rainbows. And now I was worried about salary. What position can I go to? What level can I? What title do I
Mhm.
have? I was getting caught up in it again. And my wife's like, "You're doing the same thing." So, all this big full story coming forward. I have this job. I decided to flip on the Uber app post COVID. 2.5 years, I think I went without driving. What happened on the very first ride? The guy asked me for my business card. "Do you have a card? I need to get to the airport. I travel all the time." And I'm like, "No." What made it different out here and why I started my company, there's no public transportation out here.
Mm.
Even Uber Lyft is relatively new. The highest Uber you can get is an Uber Comfort. So Uber X, Uber Comfort, they just rolled out Uber XL last year. You can't even schedule half the time. And to be honest with you, it's Northwest Arkansas, so we're reliant on locals to drive you to the airport. And so if it's snowing outside or if they don't want to get up, the amount of drivers goes down. And so what started happening on a regular basis, the universe kept connecting me with not only business travelers, but pretty high execs at Walmart or whoever, because they don't have any other way to get to the airport. They have to take an Uber. They all started asking me for a business card. So of course, you know me, I go home and start throwing up on my wife and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so different out here. Oh my gosh, the supply demand, or all these people have horror stories about getting to the airport or getting to meetings and people coming in to have meetings with Walmart." And so of course I'm talking about it every day. So one day, about a week and a half later, she calls me out of the blue and she says, "Just shut up and listen. I know you want to start Side Ride. You've been talking about it and how it would work out here and this and that. The customers are different. You'll go after all these hotels and business travelers. If you're going to do it, promise me one thing. We'll go all in. We burn the boats." You probably heard that quote before. "If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. But let's be different. Let's lead a different life, because instead of going back and do the same thing over and over." The next day, I formed the company. The rest is history. And I say the rest is history because I just put my nose to the ground and I just busted my ass. I started in my Prius. I printed some business cards, and I had the concept. I had the customers. I just needed a way to, so one customer at a time, whenever they asked for that card, now I was ready. It didn't say founder and CEO on there at the beginning, right? I didn't have the branding that I do now, but I started garnering some traction. And it just happened to be some of these early customers, you know, early retiree from McDonald's who was responsible for rolling out the McDonald's app in Europe, the whatever title at Walmart just happens to be one of the top 10 people in the company. Well, those people were sort of loyal out of necessity, but they've also become friends over the 2 years. And so the the thing I mentioned before we got on the podcast is I'm 100% organic in how I got to this point, meaning old fashioned word of mouth, literally high school rumor, whatever analogy you want to use to get to this point. And I gave you the link to my Google. Anybody can get on there and look at the 212 5-star reviews. That's really only in 1 year. I didn't even have my Google business profile working. So if you ask me, the short version, the short answer to your question is how I got into it. I think sort of this is my calling a little bit. I think you've heard so many different analogies where they say if you enjoy what you do, it's not working. I've always been somebody who walks in the room and creates the positive energy. I'm always cutting loose, making people laugh. Now I have a platform to sort of take people, get into my vehicle, have these standards and processes set, former military, can you tell? And then create this unique experience to where not only they want to come back for more, but I've made a process where it's easy to reach and have a direct contact the next time you come to the area. So what's happened with that now, it's just sort of mushroomed to sort of a different stratosphere, meaning I have different customers that are pretty well up. So when they come to the area, their executive assistant reaches out to me, everything's taken care of. So now really, if I envision who I am and how I got into this, it's not just driving people to the airport. It's not picking up at the private airports. It's really, I'm the guy in the restaurant coming out of the back, putting my arm around people saying, "Hey, how you doing? Welcome to town," or "Let me take care of you. Hey, nice to see you again," right? It's that
Right.
concierge natural side of me that comes out. So I always knew I could do it. I always knew I could provide mainly the airport or to these meetings or whatever, but it's taken on a life of its own because there are no other real options out here. There's a car service that's been here for 10 years, but they're not open until after 8 o'clock in the morning and you can't book online with them. And it's 2025.
So one of the
So,
things that you had mentioned before we started was how you've been leveraging your relationships, and you had kind of touched on it a little bit ago as well. What do you find is one key? Because I feel like business owners or new business owners always hear that, like leverage your relationships, build relationships.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you do that, like, because you seem to be good at it, to develop that relationship?
Yeah. So I know this is going to sound cliche, but I'm super transparent. I just had someone make a reservation before I got on. There's a big AI health symposium, first of its kind, Stanford University and Alice Walton School of Medicine, that's going to be opened here next year. They're putting it on. And so you have some pretty influential people in the AI space as well as the health space coming in. So from all over the world. And then there's attendees too. People just want to attend it. So this person reached out, they filled out the form on the website, and instantly, number one, I'm very responsive. In a day and age where we're getting pulled for our attention left and right constantly, the only notifications I have on my phone are my work email or text message. I don't have all these extra apps and all these red badges or anything. So I'm very prompt, but I'm also transparent. And when what she requested, I was very brutally honest in responding and saying, "We don't do that. We don't offer that. This is how it works. If you would like, I can do this." Right. So no matter what level of transparency, if I'm brutally honest and come direct, or I'm just kind of trying to say, "Hey, this is kind of how this landscape works." What's happened is the fact that I respond right away, the fact that it's a real person, right? And the fact that I'm just sort of normal, right? These people, if I start name dropping, right, are people that, whether it's the entertainment world, whether it's the
Mhm.
professional world, whatever. Well, right. I don't treat any one of them any different just because of their wallet size or because of their title or anything. And so when you use the word relationship, if you think about the first date, if you ever went on when you like somebody, or that first time you met your wife or your spouse or whatever, you're trying to put on your best effort. I think I just do that naturally, um, when I'm talking to people. Okay, so when it comes to business, everybody wants that. They don't want to be BS, right?
It's true.
Just tell me, just give me the answer I'm looking for, right? Don't prolong it. I don't need you to tell me what you think is the problem. Just tell me if you know or not. I spent an hour and 13 minutes on the phone with Apple yesterday. I'm not bashing them. Never had an issue, but all for the lady to try to tell me to restart my phone. She's tier 3. I get off the phone and I end up fixing the problem myself. But the point is it was almost a waste of time. So
Sure.
I've streamlined so much in not only my processes, but even how I interact with people, that people are just dumbfounded because it doesn't exist. So I'm transparent. I'm super efficient as far as my response time. And even when I don't, I'm apologetic about it. Like, sorry, it took me so long to get back to you. Hey, here's that invoice you asked for. But I've also used automation every which way I can, right? Like, why would I sit there and do this when the website can do it for me? So,
Absolutely.
um, if you're honest with people, like it, still to this day, with all the pace that we've set the last 25 years in this global economy, if you're just stop and talk and be honest with people, you'd be amazed how much progress you can make and how much business you can get done, right?
It's good.
I think of any business meeting. You could use sales or whatever, where guys are on the golf course. You get all kind of deals done, right? Or over a beer, because it's a
Mhm.
different setting. You're treating each other different. You're responding to each other different. Your tones are different. I do that on a daily basis, and sometimes I'm up here, sometimes I'm down here. What I do, if you really want to know my secret, I match the energy of the customer. I could pick up
Yeah.
that on through email or text, or obviously in person. So
No, so I think you kind of made a good point with being honest, but I think it kind of goes even a little bit further, being genuine. I think people just want that genuine person. They don't want to make it sound like they're being bullshitted. They don't want to make it sound like, and so I think being genuine is kind of that key more than anything, right? Being yourself is key. Like with your current model, like what's your plans for the future? Do you plan on expanding, or what's your goals there?
yeah, so it'll always be Northwest Arkansas based. So unfortunately, if you don't visit the area, I'm not saying you're missing out, but you're missing out. Um, the gravitational pull that this place has, just with Walmart alone, their new campus, actually on the 17th, they're having a ceremony next week, is set to open. They created their own concierge and hospitality department for the new campus. There's a hotel on the campus. Like it's almost like Disneyland. Okay. So if just that was out here alone, that would supply enough business, even if I was external and didn't have the relationships I have. So there's no need to expand outside this area. And then if you look at the business model, go back to how I got started. I was this Uber guy who was getting pulled in. I knew I was maybe good at it or good with people. I was going after the business traveler. I went and made relationships with all these hotels, from the valet guy to the manager, and just be friendly with everyone, bullshit with them when I'm not even picking up. Hey, what's up, Jose? Hey, what's up, Fred? Okay, I don't even do that no more. I do. They recommend me. I'll get a call. Someone say, hey, they gave me your number. They were staying at the hotel, whatever. So then I got elevated to sort of this executive level. Well, now it's expanded beyond that to where it's like, okay, I have two types of services. I could take you to the airport, A to B, whether it's a round trip and you're in and out and I get you both ways, or just the one way. Really, I'm more inundated with so and so's coming in. I'll be picking them up at 6:30 tonight or whatever tomorrow. And now they're requesting me specifically or a driver specifically because of how we make them feel. And now we're tied up. So my vision for the future really is, instead of sort of having this mix and melting pot and reactionary environment, separate the two. It'll always be black SUV. Here's the four drivers that you're always going to get if you're just point to point and you need to be picked up at the airport. And here's the four drivers, sort of the cool club of, if Joey's not available, you can pick Rudy. If Rudy's not available, you can pick Anthony, right? But the relationship aspect will always be there because there'll only be four drivers. So it sounds crazy to anybody who knows anything about this industry, because they go, oh, you're going to get busy, or you're going to lose a lot of business. Actually, I'm driving less. I've gotten more business now because I've slowed things down. And to your point, I'm genuine or transparent, so much so that I have customers move their itinerary around. So if I envision the future as I go into year 3 here, it's sort of separating the processes behind the scene and front facing to the customer to say, hey, you either come here and book this service or you come here and book this service. And the cool thing is, might as well throw this out. My prices have been the same since I started. I know this industry very well. Yes, I'm the most expensive, but I'm also the best because I'm offering something completely different. And so, one cool thing that I've been doing, and obviously this resonates with this podcast, I give 50% off to the veterans. So it doesn't matter if you're a spouse, if you're a parent, if you're the veteran yourself. And so you're talking to like a $7,000 invoice that the Penn Fed Foundation had requested my service for 7 different veteran entrepreneurs. They were having some hub here. Now it's a $3,500 invoice, right? Doesn't matter if you're a corporation or if you're a person. There's a well-off and well-known CEO around here, and he pays $49 to go to the airport in the black car service. You know why? Because he doesn't get charged the full 100. He's a veteran, right? So the future is going to just stay the course, but separate the processes so that the customers are able to sort of live in that ecosystem that they choose. Where right now it's sometimes they get a little hasty. Hey, my driver Anthony's going to be there. Sorry, I couldn't get you this time, right? Because of the business opportunities. But I let people book up to 1 year in advance, and it's not like the people that I'm servicing are coming out every day. We're not a tourist destination, right? So it's a very predictable sort of uh, week to week, month to month type thing based on not only local events, but mainly the business sort of rotation that they have out here. So the sky's the limit, but there is a limit. I'm never going to go beyond this. And to be honest with you, I want to be busting at the seams and create that scarcity effect so that you know that when you come out here, you better book 3 weeks in advance instead of 1 week in advance. Think of a
No, that's
fine
great.
dining restaurant or a hotel. And people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, no. Uh, It'll always be able to keep the relationship going with our drivers, with me personally, and keep everyone connected. So to be like this one cool membership, not really membership, but you know what I mean,
Mhm.
ecosystem that if you want to, these are the things you got to do to get a reservation or to get service.
You know, um, while you're talking, your process procedures, especially being military related, feels very capable of doing like a franchise model or being able to sell maybe your process and procedure. Yeah, I think you may be cutting yourself a little short by that, especially because I think there's a lot of even like the veteran community that there's a lot of veterans out here that are maybe looking for that idea that something like this, and you could be able to expand outside your reach just by offering something like that.
I mentioned consulting earlier. So I worked for Toyota for 10 years, just about after I got out of the military. A roommate of mine had worked at this Toyota plant where the Tesla plant is now in Fremont, California. So I always tell people I was born into it. So if anybody knows, have heard the term continuous improvement or Six Sigma, I learned that. I learned the Toyota way, and I went from team member to team leader to like project to being a project lead and all these different positions within Toyota. Now, the world had other ideas, and that plant closed due to the economy going bad in '08. So in 2010, they walked us out. And in Joey fashion, the next day I was in Vegas, go figure, right? For 5 days. Uh, but 6 days later, I was in Texas visiting an old military buddy of mine. But I tell you that because it led me to my wife, led me to having kids, and obviously now I have this thriving company. But I never lost sight of that, and I had to turn that into a consulting career. So I used to teach companies. I can walk into any facility, I can walk into any industry and apply these principles. I can create it from scratch, or we can sit down and take what you've built and help you out. So, to your point, with any business or any veteran out there watching this, if you want any insight or tidbits or put something together for you, I'm always willing to help. I can come up with a similar sort of process because that roadmap and template is stuck in here from my Toyota days, and so I just
Right.
replicate that. To be honest with you, but I will tell you a cool story since you brought that up. I had some gentlemen here from Japan, very, very broken English, and it was an Uber ride. No, excuse me. It was a recommendation from a hotel. It was just a 2-star hotel, a little Hilton Garden Inn. But they needed to get to their flight early in the morning. So they recommended me. We're driving. They asked about my company. You know, I had the translator up. I thought it was going to be that bad, right? That Google Translate in my car on my iPad. Well, I said, look, what I'm doing is I'm using continuous improvement Six Sigma, and I've built all my processes and my whole platform, even the efficiency I work with picking people up at the airport. I don't pull up to the flights on the ground. It's a 14-minute deboarding process because I've done the time studies, right? On average, for an average person with no luggage, like I have it down. They looked at me and says, "Oh, you're very smart. Nobody's doing that. It's very smart to take Toyota, put into this industry." Well, other industries have done that in
Mhm.
manufacturing and healthcare. Nobody's doing it in this industry. So people can try to do it, but because of my background, and to your point with the military, I know how to implement it, if that makes sense. So yeah, so
Absolutely.
I definitely know that I have that skill set, and I have had that conversation about franchises and sort of replicating it and getting someone off the ground in a 3 to 6 month kind of thing or something. But I live in the now. My wife and I have a saying: we don't live in a future that doesn't exist, and we sure as hell don't live in the past and get in our own head. We live in the now. And so for me, yes, I'm strategic and I can see things, but I this is such a week to week mushroom type fun ride for me right now that I just haven't given it much thought.
Awesome.
Oh, that's fair.
Well, Joey, as we wrap up here, tell everyone why should people use Side Ride? Why you? What sets you apart? Why
Yeah.
are you worth the premium?
Yeah, so like what I mentioned a few times in my elongated answers here is um I offer a different experience. I wanted to be different. I was always naturally a disruptor, but uh, the story I told before we got on the podcast about the gentleman coming up to the door, the feedback that I'm getting directly from not only the customers themselves, the security teams of these high-end customers where they travel all around the world, the executives, the business, the local leisure travelers, it's how we make you feel. We match the energy when the customer gets into the car. Even if they're regular customers, they may not be all happy-go-lucky, right? We understand, right? And it's not about this, it's just literally body language. It's about understanding, having empathy, or situational fluency, right? So there's some deep layers that I won't get into. Obviously, we don't have time, but it's how we make you feel. And some people have called that sacred hospitality, which you can find that on the Y Side Ride page on sideridennwa.com, or the unreasonable hospitality, which there's books that have been written about it, right? Or the Ritz-Carlton effect. Really, it's just a case by case scenario where every customer has their unique DNA footprint, and we're so thoughtful in everything we do, not just from a processes and efficiency standpoint, but how we make you feel and how we curate that experience to where when you come back the second and third time, that's when you really see the value because you feel it. And there's a predictability to it, right? You're getting excited to go see a relative or get excited to go to the game. So it's a very different experience all around when you strip away the black car, when you strip away sort of the, okay, how many drivers do you got? All that stuff. Once people use my service, they usually come back, or sometimes they're a celebrity and they create a fake account. I won't mention their name. And then they leave a review because it was so awesome to them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
No, that's awesome.
That is
That's
awesome.
awesome. I know that your answers have been, as you said, long winded, but they've been great.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
look, I'm enthusiastic about what I do.
Good time.
Naturally, I'm an enthusiastic person. Like right now, literally, when we get off this podcast, I'm driving somebody that's out here interviewing for Walmart to the airport. Um, and then I have somebody coming in tonight at 6, right? I don't even feel like I'm working, and I worked till 11:30 last night, right? I still got up, went to the gym this morning. So it's a natural enthusiasm I always had my whole life. I had the hard time sitting down in the classroom, right? I don't know how I made it to the military. Um, but now I sort of have this outlet and this platform to sort of affect people in this positive way. So how can I not be fired up about it?
Absolutely. Well, we're going to link all your Google and your website down below, so everybody can just click on you, make it easy for you. Jared, you got any parting words or?
no, thanks for coming on, Joey. It was a great conversation.
No,
You
absolutely.
provide a lot of info.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it's if anybody's ever come into Northwest Arkansas, business or leisure, the secret's out. There's plenty of articles written about this place and the boom that's happening and the 70% of real estate that's jumped in the last 4 years. You can look me up. The best thing to do is don't take my word for it. Get on Google and you look at my reviews. They're all stories, right? These are some pretty fascinating tales, I guess. And then you read through them, and I get a lot of it seems fake kind of stuff, but I'm excited to see where it goes. To keep the organic route going, and then maybe I'll have you guys on my podcast next time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'd love it. Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Joey.
sure.
Best of luck
All
to
right.
you. Hopefully, we'll be joining your podcast here soon.
All right.
Wish you nothing but success in your business, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.